Hello, welcome all. Today we will see constructors in Java. Basically, there are two steps of object creation in Java. We have to declare the object and we have to initialize or instantiate the object. Now, this object initialization again can be done by two ways. First, by using dot operator, and second, by using member function. Let's see how. Now this is one example class test with variable and one method. Now suppose if there are two objects O1 and O2. Now if I want to initialize these two object O1 and O2, initialization of object means the variables that we have declared inside the class should get any value assigned to it. Assigning value to the variable of the class in the object is known as the initialization of object. So by using dot operator we can do that by writing object name dot variable name is equal to value. But if there are 50 variables or if there are 10 variables and 1000 plus objects, so that many number of code line will increase. So second way is that we can use method. Same example variable, in one function or method I can read the values or I can set the values of variables of the class. But again, for every object we need to call that function by writing object dot function name. So every time when new object will be created, again we have to call function for reading or setting the value of that variable. So in both the cases, using dot or method operator, in both the cases, the number of code line increases, that will cause the compilation time increase and maximum response time. So how that can be reduced? So here comes the use of constructor. Constructor is used to initialize the object of a class. What it is it a variable or a class or a function? So basically, constructor is a method or function, but it is a special kind of method. Why special? Because it is having a particular characteristics. The name of constructor is same as the class name. There is no need to specify any return type in front of constructor, not even void. And there is no need to call constructor. It is automatically called when we create object of that class. Now what are the types of constructor? There are three types: default, parameterized and copy. We will see one by one. Default constructor. A constructor with zero or no parameter or argument is known as a default constructor. Syntax. Here, when we define the class name, and the default constructor will be having the same name as the class name, and there will not be any parameter or argument in the bracket of this constructor, and we can write the body of the constructor. For example, class abc, then we can have a function with name abc itself with no argument. This type of special method is known as a default constructor. Now we will see one program. Calculate the area of circle using default constructor. So what we will need basically for this, for calculating area of circle, we will be using default constructor to initialize the value for the radius variable. Include the library, define a class. For circle we need variable radius r. Now, how to define the default constructor? Name of the class is circle, so we will write circle, no void or any return type in front of it. And as it is a default, there will not be any parameter in this bracket, it will be empty. Now you can set the value of this variable over here in this body. You can read from user by using read line, or you can assign value by your own. Now a normal simple instance method is written in which the calculation of area of circle is done by calculating 3.14 into r into r. Answer is saved in AR variable and the area of circle is displayed. Now this area of circle is calculated and displayed in the area function. After that we will write the main function and we have to create object of circle class. So object is created by writing class name object name is equal to new class name round bracket semicolon. So circle C1 is equal to new circle, this is the object. And when we create object of the class, and at the runtime for this statement, it will check if there is any default constructor in the program, then it will jump to this default constructor and this line of statement will get executed. And next one, we have to call this area method explicitly because it is an instance method. So we are calling that method by using object of the class. Save this file, compile this code by writing java c circle dot java. If there are error will be displayed, otherwise prompt will be displayed. Now interpret the code by writing java interpreter and the name of the file. So we will get the output, area of circle is 78.5. Now moving on, next type of constructor is parameterized constructor. A constructor with parameter is known as a parameterized constructor. Syntax is same as of the default constructor, only the difference is that parameterized constructor will have parameters in the bracket. In example C, ABC class, ABC constructor name, in bracket you may have any type of argument and any number of argument in the bracket of this constructor, and here you can write the body of the constructor. Now we will see the same example of calculating area of circle using parameterized constructor. Now here we have to make a change. Now it depends how many arguments or parameter we can write in the constructor, that depends on your problem definition. Now suppose for the area of circle only one input is needed, that is radius. So for that I will have one integer parameter, suppose x. So it means I am passing one radius value to the constructor, and whatever will be the value of x, that we will be assigning into the r variable. Now when we create object of class, now this statement will not call the parameterized constructor, because for calling or execution of that constructor we need to pass one integer parameter. So when I create object and at the same time we have to pass the parameter, so this parameter will come into the x variable, that x will be assigned into r, so r will become 2. And then when we call c1 dot area, 3.14 into 2 into 2 will be calculated and the answer will be displayed. Let's see the output of this code. So area of circle is displayed 12.56. So this is the parameterized constructor. Parameterized constructor is a constructor having data type arguments. Okay. Now moving on, next type of constructor is copy constructor. Now, copy constructor is also a parameterized constructor, only the difference is that copy constructor is having object of a class as a parameter. And use of the copy constructor is to make a replica of existing object. If there is already existing object and you want the same copy of it, it means you want to copy the values of variable of one object into the another as it is, then we can make use of copy constructor. Now what is the syntax of it? In constructor we have to give class name object name in the argument part of the constructor. For example, class abc, in abc that is class name again and the name of the object, this is the copy constructor. Now we will see same example of uh, calculating area of circle using the copy constructor. If we want to make use of copy constructor, it means we need to have more than one object so that we can copy the value of previous object to the new one. Now suppose here I am making use of two constructor, class circle int radius variable. This is default constructor because there is no argument. Then value of the R variable is set over here in the default constructor. You can read it from the user also. And now this is copy constructor, where in the constructor we have written the class name and any object name. And we have to assign the objects R value into the new R value. Now how this will execute? Rest of the code is same, just only the changes in the main function. Now I am creating circle C1 is equal to new circle. What will happen at the time of compilation? Compiler will check is there any default constructor, because here are no arguments. So it will create object C1 and it will go to check if there is a default constructor. Yes, it exists. So it will save the address of this default constructor to execute at runtime. So value of C1's R is equal to 4. And when we will call c1 dot area, it will call the calculate the area of circle and it will display the answer. Now for next object, for c2 object, I want c2 to be copy of the c1. Whatever value of the c1's r variable, I want to copy that value into the r variable of c2. So what I will do, I will just write circle c2 is equal to new circle in bracket c1. Here we are passing c1 means which is existing object of the same class. So it means c2 will be replica of c1. So this C1 object will be received in the X variable, which is object again, because in front of that we have a class name. So this object name dot R. So C1 dot R. So it means C1 dot R value will be assigned into the R, which is of C2. And again area function will be called. Let's see if we get the same answer for both the area of the circle. Now when I execute the program, R has been set 4 in the default and same value is copied for the next object, that is C2. So both the area of circle is same. So this was about copy constructor. Moving on, next concept is constructor overloading. Overloading means more than one thing. When you get more tasks to be done by yourself, if anyone instructs you do this, do this, so we say that I am overloaded. It means you are the same person but you want to behave differently or you want to perform multiple tasks. Overloading is the example of polymorphism. Many thing, one thing for different purposes. So constructor overloading meaning what? When in the same class, if there are more than one constructor of different types, then that process is known as a constructor overloading. It means in one class you may have default parameterized or parameterized copy or default copy or parameterized copy, any combination among these three types of constructor. And if there are one more than one type of constructor, then that concept is known as a constructor overloading. Now this is the example of compile time polymorphism, means example of static binding or early binding. Binding meaning linking of function call with the function body, that is done at two time, either at compile time or at runtime. But in case of constructor overloading, it is done at the compilation time itself. Now how compiler decides which constructor to run at the time of object creation? Compiler can, even though the name of constructor is same, but compiler can differentiate between these different special methods having same name, but compiler can make a difference depending or based on what? It will check the number of argument, and if it is same, then it will check the type of the argument, and accordingly it will invoke the particular constructor at the runtime. Now, same example we have seen for the constructor overloading. This is the example of constructor overloading. Why? Because in this same class, in this one class, we have defined more than one constructor. That is, we have default constructor and we have copy constructor as well. So this circle name is overloaded with different behavior. This is performing different task and this is performing a different task. Now how compiler will make difference between these two object creation line? It means which constructor to be invoked at this one line and at this second line. So at the time of compilation, compiler first will check the number of argument. Here are no argument, so it will check there are two constructor. So is it having zero argument? No, it is a constructor having zero argument. So this body will be linked with this object creation line. So at runtime it will directly jump to this execution. So that's why constructor overloading is known as example of compile time polymorphism or early binding or static binding, because it is done before executing the program at the compilation time. So in this session, what we have seen, constructor, which is a special method used to initialize object of a class, characteristics of constructor, why it is special, because its name is same as the class name. There is no return type, not even void, and it is automatically called when we create object of a class. There is no need to call constructor function explicitly. Types of constructors are default, parameterized, and copy. Constructor overloading means when there is more than one constructor in the same class, then that process is known as a constructor overloading. And constructor overloading is example of compile time polymorphism. Hope you have understood this concept. See you in the next session. Thank you. Bye.